You know, it just kind of amazes me that we can be so oblivious about things, or think we're taking the easy route with something, but then something easier comes along. And really what I'm referring to is like when you're a kid and you're inspired by someone, whomever, and you feel like, oh, I'm going to do that one day. And we get this idea of becoming something that we have expectations about becoming something, instead of taking that inspiration and allowing it to drive us basically down the road where we're really headed anyway. Because, you know, I've noticed that I'm right where I was supposed to be, but this isn't where I was headed. And I gave the example a while back about, you know, if it was this guy's, say we'll take a guy that is about to move to Florida with his family. It's like written in his script. That's part of it, right? So there's two things that can happen. One is maybe his wife tells him she's always wanted to live in Florida. The next day he goes to work. His job says that they're opening up a new location in Florida. And then on the way home, he gets cut off by somebody on the highway with a Florida plate with maybe a synchronistic number on it or something, right? That's special to that person. And then he gets home and he grabs the mail as he's walking in the house, and in the mail is a brochure for, I don't know, some tourist stuff in Florida, right? So you got all these 4 or 5 things that kind of popped up within a day. And I think the difference between someone that's aware and someone that's not aware is they're both going to move to Florida, in my opinion. They're both headed there. That's like in the script. But one of the versions saw the signs and thought maybe that's interesting, or didn't even notice the connection and the synchronicities in it all. And then the other one kind of knew what was going on because they were aware of the different signs. Well, I guess we're moving to Florida. I've gotten like 4 or 5 signs in like a day, you know, and it's like we are being, I don't know, we're being guided, we're being, information's being given to us, but whether we're aware of it or not is a completely different thing. So while I was in meditation, and by the way, I'm by the airport and trains and cars, so you might hear planes, trains, and automobiles. So I apologize about that. I only say that because I think I see a train individually. Train got to keep on moving though, baby. You know that. Anyway, I was thinking about when we have like our idea of what we want to do, like say we're inspired by somebody, let's use like I don't know, maybe a rock star in our community, maybe Bashar. We're like, oh, I'd love to be like Bashar and do what he does, and maybe we're inspired. But one thing we know for certain is it's not going to look just like Bashar. But when we're kids, you know, that's kind of the simple way we look at things. We think it's the easy way, right? I want to be just like him or her or whatever. And we start striving towards that in our mind. And then as things change and bump us different ways, we can have the unawareness that it's all really happening for a purpose, that there's a deeper purpose behind why things seem to take a detour from where we expect it. So this is really all about the left brain being part of expectations and conclusions. And this is super helpful, not only in your personal life, or in my personal life, I can speak for myself, but it's also helpful within the BQH practice while helping other people. So while I was in meditation, I had this memory come to mind of this magical day. Now, keep in mind, just like I said in the beginning with the guy going to Florida, I was in that unaware state. I did not realize, like, to me, things seemed to be going wrong, but it actually turned out to be a very magical day, and I wanted to share that story. So I just turned 18, it's summer of '92, and leading up to my 18th birthday for like the last, I don't know, 3 to 6 months or so, I can't really remember, my brother had started selling Medicare supplemental insurance. And he was, you know, he had these books, he was doing all this stuff and studying for his test, and then he started selling insurance, and he was doing real good. And he's 9 years older than me. So he's about 27 at this time, and he's showing me like all the different, you know, trips to the Bahamas or whatever, you know, that the agents can win if they sell enough insurance. So I was totally about all the material stuff I was going to be able to get. You know, he was telling me about all the money you get and all the residuals, and for me, it was like, he was like really talking me up, saying, man, you know how much money you can be making when you turn 18? Because I wasn't old enough to even sell yet. So I started studying his books and looking through it, and even got a job doing like cold call sales in his office. And I was all preparing for when I turn 18, I'm going to take this test and become an insurance agent at 18 and start making buku bucks. So I turned 18. I had like a month of, I had a month to go and complete the test and get my license or whatever. But I went out on a meeting with an elderly lady, and keep in mind, I'm like 18. I don't know crap, right? It's like, I don't even know what I don't know. I know all the words I had to learn in the book and all that, and sure, it like expanded my vocabulary at the time, because I mean, indemnity, semi-annual, biannual, you know, there's all these terms, that a lot of them that you'll just kind of figure out as you get older. But at 18, I just hadn't come across so many of these words, and it was just so heavy on my brain. It would like wear me out trying to, you know, learn all these different terms and then read through all these complicated documents like slowly so I could, you know, comprehend what I was even reading. And it was just, it was a lot for me. It was like worse than school. But, you know, I had that drive. I had my brother that was kind of like encouraging me to keep going and telling me all the money I was going to be able to make at a young age and all this stuff. And it was very enticing. So anyway, I got on this first meeting, and it's like, I had gone on meetings before with other people, but this one I was by myself. I went, and it did not start good. The lady came out the door, like right when I got in, and greeted me. She was so sweet, you know, and she came up to me and she said something about, and I can't even remember because I didn't even understand what she was saying, right? This is going to be funny to a lot of you guys. So she says something about her shingles bothering her or something, and then turns around to like walk me back in the house. Thank God she turned around, because I was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And then I like look up at her roof, and I'm like, man, her shingles look like brand new. What is she talking about, right? I didn't even know what shingles were other than the roofing shingles. So I go in there, I'm trying to talk to this lady, and I don't really know what the heck I'm talking about. And, you know, of course, questions I didn't know came up, so I just felt like a complete idiot, you know. And so the meeting's a really big blur, but it just did not go well. I mean, the lady was nice. We didn't have any altercations or anything. I just wasn't knowledgeable enough to be there, and I really felt inadequate, you know. And I don't know. So I leave out of the meeting, and I'm feeling kind of disappointed. Now, keep in mind, I've got a 3-piece suit on, vest, you know, super dressed up, looking nice, smelling good and everything, you know. I'm trying to, you know, just look like I left church, you know. And so I leave that meeting, and on the way back, I'm listening to the radio, and these DJs are talking about how they're at Eastland Mall here in Tulsa. So I'm listening, and they're like, hey, we're doing this contest. If you can catch this egg from 3 stories up, you can win, like, I don't remember, it was like hundreds of dollars or something. And I was like, I was like needing gas money at that point, you know. The meeting, I don't know if I got another meeting. I don't really know what happened, but I didn't get any money out of that meeting, right? So I went over to the mall, went in there, and, you know, there was a bunch of people wanting to try out to catch this egg. And what they did was, we were in the food court at the very bottom level, and then there was like multiple levels that you could look up. So the roof was really tall, the ceiling was really tall. And on the upper level, they had put one of those like cranes that lift you up even higher. So they were up by those skylight windows, looking over down the edge, all the way down to the food court. And they were going to drop eggs from like 3 stories up, and whoever catches it without it breaking wins the contest. So automatically, I was like, dude, this is so easy. This is like a walk in the park. I got to tell you, I did it, and I had confidence the whole way, and I don't even know, and nothing got in my head, because even when I went up there, the DJs, the radio DJs, because it happened live on the radio, you know, the radio DJs were like, oh my God, this guy's here, he's here in this three-piece suit, and they were just, you could tell they were hoping I'd crack this egg all over me, right, because I got this suit on and stuff, but in my mind, I had no doubt I was going to catch it, because when I was in Little League Baseball, my dad would throw me his keys, and my dad had a ton of keys, probably like, no joke, probably 20 to 30 keys on his key ring, you know, for work and home and all these. Back then there was keys for everything, right? Sheds and garages and tool sheds and just key, and then he had a bunch for work. So he probably had like 20 to 30 keys on the thing, and if you didn't catch it right, it would hurt your hand really, really bad. So I would be like by the outfield, and he would be by home plate, and he would underhand it to me, and it would like lob way over to me, and when I catch it, I move my hands with it. He showed me how to like move with it so that it didn't hurt. It lessened the impact. So I'm like, I'll just do that. And sure enough, I had my hands up in the air, and as it got down in my hands, I just went like that and caught it. Didn't break. They were so surprised. But two other people did it. Two other people were able to do it out of, I don't know, maybe a dozen people or so. I can't really remember. So they ended up having to do a drawing to see who got the money, and it was going to be first, second, and third place. And I think first got 150, second got 100, and third got 50. And I ended up getting second. So I had a $100 shopping. Back then it was like a voucher. It wasn't even a card, right? So it was this voucher thing that I could take, you know, in any store in the mall, and it was worth $100. So I needed money. I didn't need stuff from the mall. So I ended up going to this jeweler and getting this nice watch, because of course I had my suit on, and I just didn't have a watch to go with it. I'm like, yeah, I'll get a watch, something that kind of looks nice with my suit, because I had one of those black rubbery, you know, it just didn't look good with the suit. So I wanted something I could wear with my suit, so because I thought I was going to be selling insurance. So I got this decent watch for like $50. Tax took it up to like, I don't know, 52 or something, and then I ended up getting the change. So that's kind of how I figured out how to get money out of it. I'm like, I'll just get something for around 50, because it came in $50 vouchers. That's what it was. So they had to break into that second voucher for a couple of bucks, but I got the change. So I ended up getting a new watch. That was really the nicest watch I ever had. It was like, had a leather strap, and it just looked nicer, you know, because I just had kid-looking watches up to that point. So I was like growing up, feeling like an adult. And for some reason, while I left the mall, I was heading back home, got gas, was able to fill up my tank. Well, back then you could fill up your tank and still have plenty of money. Probably got something to eat, I can't really remember. But what came to me was, you always wanted to deliver pizzas for Domino's. You weren't old enough. I had just turned 18, but of course I'd been so busy with the insurance thing that I forgot all about that. So I'm like, man, that would be so much easier. Just drive around, listen to my music. I'm tired of like studying for the test or whatever. So I stopped at Domino's. Now keep in mind, I still had on my three-piece suit, and now my watch that looked really cool, you know, and I felt on top of the world. I just won this contest. I went in there just really high-vibing it up, you know. And the manager was there. He was super impressed that I'm like 18. I show up with a suit on for the job. He thought I like dressed up in a suit to come get the job, but really, I just had this huge epic failure as an insurance agent. It still was dressed like an insurance agent, but that didn't matter. He was impressed. He ended up saying, you know, we need somebody at this other store. Why don't you come over there? And then, so I ended up going over there like a day or two later, and I passed everybody up and was immediately put into, like within a month or two, was put into what they call the MIT program, which is manager in training. 18 years old, training to be an assistant manager. And yeah, that was pretty much how that day went. But I set off to be a successful insurance agent, but ended up getting a job at Domino's. And I ended up loving that job. I ended up excelling. I worked there, I don't know, maybe a year or two. Not a long time, but it was definitely enough to get over the hump and, you know, get out of that insurance phase that I was in, because that was really, like I said, it was really taxing in the brain. So that's kind of how life is, right? We have expectations of one thing, and then when things change, we feel like a failure, which I totally felt like a failure that day. And I was, from the ego's perspective, because the ego had decided and came up with some conclusions and expectations about what was in store, but my higher self knew. So a lot of times I think, you know, we could feel like a failure, just like the video I shared by Bashar recently. That really spoke to me, because he said something about, you know, if you're late paying your rent and you call your landlord, maybe he'll give you a little bit more time or whatever. And I was thinking in my mind, it's like, dude, if I have to call my landlord, I've already failed, you know? It's like, I don't have my money when I was supposed to have it to pay the bills I'm supposed to pay. That, to me, would be a failure. But it's not in the universe's eyes. It's like, you know, just call them up. What do you need? You need more time. You need money or time. So if you just called the person up, and that was the example Bashar used. But it's just the fact that when he was saying that, I realized that I would have labeled as a failure. Like, you didn't get it in time, you missed the mark, you know what I mean? But life's just not like that, you know? Those are all the expectations and the conclusions that we put on things. And it's really good to be open and realize that it's in those deviations that the magic happens. And so when I was in meditation and I was like trying to really learn about getting in the flow and being guided by your higher self rather than your lower, but also finding that balance to use the gifts of your ego, earth suit, that we all have gifts, we all have abilities, we all have unique beauty that we bring to this beautiful life. You know, it's like we're all a unique puzzle piece, and we're just as unique as each of our fingerprints are. And we all bring something special, and it'll be a mixture of something. And while we can look at the stars in the sky, and you can see all these stars at different brightnesses, and sure, you might look at the brighter star and think, I want to be just like that bright star. But a lot of times you don't realize, once you zoom in on that bright star and you see just all the chaos and turmoil happening in that bright star, you might not really want that. You want the star that's the star for you, your own star. You might be the tiny twinkling red one, or something like that, you know? But that's you. That's your unique expression. And it's really finding this balance of allowing the divine to flow through us while being our true self, meaning our true character within this game. For me, Shane, being the best Shane I can be. And also, like, they've been dealing with me on, you know, trying to stay in life review mode. And that really goes for ourselves too, you know, taking a stand for ourselves, and when times call for that, you know, and to really realize that you're the star of your own show, and you've got your own script to follow, and every day there's going to be something that tries to take you out of that script, or that, basically, whatever your path is. But I also believe that we get bumped back onto that path somehow. So it's easier to sort of stay in the flow, because you're just going to get knocked back over there anyway. It's just going to be a harder knock if you're further off track, as I stare at this train coming in. But yeah, it can be really helpful if you can just live in the now, you know, and just let the expectations go. Not really coming to any conclusions. I know a lot, as we begin to see signs, it's so easy to take those signs and start applying meaning to it. Well, this must mean this, and this must mean this. But it's our ego throwing all these expectations onto these signs we're getting. And it's almost better to just sit back, see the sign, and wonder. Oh, I wonder what that can mean. And then you'll notice more things that come, and it draws a more complete picture. But when you start getting ideas of what those signs mean, you might miss the other signs, because those signs were pointing in a different direction, but you think the signs meant this, so you don't, oh, well, that doesn't match my, you know. So then you get bumped back on the tracks in a way. But I really feel like being that time is an illusion. There's not any like real fear or danger of, like, say, missing the mark or something. And I just think that once the process of following your heart, once you get to, okay, so you can't just follow your heart. Like, I couldn't follow my heart as a teenager. I was following my heart as a teenager, because what did I want? I wanted money and trips to Acapulco and the Bahamas, selling insurance and stuff. That's where my heart was at, you know. So it's almost like you have to get your heart in the right place, and then you can follow your heart. But it's not really that your heart's in the wrong place at first. It's just really your mind is giving you your desires and making you feel like that's your heart's desire, right? Love train, baby. Okay, so I don't even remember what I was saying. So the desires, the expectations are all just parts of the game to keep it interesting, you know? And it's like realizing, you know, it's okay, expectations and wonder are two different things. So you can wonder, but as soon as you sort of jump on a conclusion of, well, it means this, then you're kind of setting yourself up for disaster. Because, I mean, think about like anybody you look at, you know, whether it's Bashar or Lenny Kravitz or, you know, I don't know, some kind of rock star, Prince or somebody, right? It's like, no matter how much they inspire you and how much you want to be like them, you'll 100% never be them, right? I mean, that's a given. And it's easy to see that. And like about the best you can do is maybe like somebody like Elvis, you can be an Elvis impersonator, and you're really tapping into that energy of Elvis and that love for Elvis and all of that good stuff. But you're still not Elvis, you know, you're an Elvis impersonator. You're someone who brings joy of the memory of Elvis or whatever. So it's still different, you know. But when we can just focus in on what ignites that passion in us, is it the performing? Is it the... I'll share another story with you. And this happened, I think this was the actual same year. Once again, I'm driving on the road. I was driving past Oral Roberts University, and we have what's called the Maybe Center, the Baby Maybe and the Maybe Center, and that's where they'll do shows and stuff. Right when I'm driving by there, the radio's playing. It's like, we're out here live at the Maybe Center. We're giving away a free ticket to Michael Bolton. Now at this time, yeah, I didn't have any of his albums or anything, but I knew who he was. I listened to his music. There was a few songs I really liked or whatever, and I didn't have anything to do, you know? And this was like back when there was no cell phones or anything, and I'm like, oh, actually this might have been before the insurance thing. I think I was 17 when this happened, so this would have been like a few months before the insurance thing. But I'm driving along. They say that they're giving away a free ticket. I just pull right in there, like literally right when they said I park. I go up there. I meet the DJs. They give me this cool thing to hang around. It's got like, you know, K107, whatever the radio station was, and then like on the other side, I had a picture of Michael Bolton on there. And it was on this. Well, this was before lanyards even, right? This was like a shoestring or hoodie string looking thing tied around my neck. I got the free ticket. Had to go over to the payphone because I was actually on my way back home, and you know, I knew my mom would be looking for me. I'm like, look, Mom, I just told her the story. She's cool with it. I went into this concert. Oh my God, you guys. I was all by myself there, like enjoying this thing, and it was amazing. When he sang that song Back on My Feet Again, and it just touched me. It was just, dude, I was brought to tears, and I was kind of embarrassed about it, you know, because I had never felt like anything like that. Well, keep in mind, up to this point, I had just been to Christian concerts, so it wasn't, you know, this was like I crossed over to the other side. In fact, if it hadn't been someone like Michael Bolton, my mom would have been like, no, you need to come home, whatever. But he's pretty okay, you know. So anyway, I go in there, and he's singing Back on My Feet Again. There's not a dry eye in the place. He's just singing like, I don't know, guys. It was definitely one of those moments where I was like, man, we're all like connected in this emotional energy, and really feeling this guy's heart, you know, as he's singing. And I was just overwhelmed by his echoing voice through the place and just singing from his heart, and it was just too much. It was too much for anybody. I didn't notice anybody, like, not crying. It was it was just very touching, and it was a really eye-opening moment, and it was really an inspiring moment for me to want people to feel that way. And of course, I wanted to be Michael Bolton after that, you know. Started doing all the, yeah, I don't know. You know, I had actually recorded my first song by then, but that really, you know, pushed me in this direction of like really trying to move forward in my music at that time. And but it was powerful, you know. I took that, I wanted to be Michael Bolton for a while, but of course, like I just said, you know that it's not going to be that bad. But it's going to be something that energetically ties in with the inspiration you feel.
And I see that I'm strong. Gonna hear the children laugh. I'm gonna hear their voices sing. Won't be long till I hear them. When I'm back on my feet again, and I'm gonna feel the sweet light of heaven shining down. It's a light on me. One sweet day I will feel it. When I'm back on my feet again. When I'm back on my feet again. I won't run down the street again. And the Lord look at me again. And I see that I'm strong. And I'm not gonna cry again. I will learn to stand tall again. I swear I'm never gonna fall again. 'Cause I've learned to be strong. Soon these tears will all be dry. Soon these eyes will see the sun. Won't be long till I see it. When I'm back on my feet again. When I'm back on my feet again. I'll be back on my feet again. Thank you so much.
Wow, that song really takes me back, you guys. I had no idea that it was available like that. Um, so, although I'd been to a bunch of concerts like Petra, Allies, the Garmo and Key, Sandy Patty, BB and CC Wine, and a bunch of Christian people, you know, um, this was the first secular. And it's funny because I was just remembering how when I called my mom, I'm like, he's cool. He's the guy that sings Time, Love, and Tenderness, you know, because she had no way of like, you know, I think that played enough on the radio that she kind of like recognized the song and then was cool with me going. But wow, it was, and he's probably pretty underrated because, even though that was one of the first concerts I'd ever gone to in my life, when I think back, it's like one of the only concerts, and this is not putting anyone else down. This is really simply saying that, just talking about Michael Bolton's ability, that he, like you heard in that clip there, if they didn't pull it down, that you would hear these songs on the radio or on the CD or whatever, and you would get to know him, and he already sounds like he's really into it and stuff. But then you go and hear him in concert, and he like overdoes it, like he like even sounds like he's even more into it. And it was like that to the very last song. I mean, he never seemed to tire at all. It was, and I didn't even know at the time that, I was blown away at his ability to sound even better than the CD the entire concert, because I had been to enough concerts to know that people just don't sound as good as the CD typically, but he sounded better than the CD like the whole concert, and I never experienced that, and I honestly haven't experienced that since. I've heard a lot of great people perform, but you just get tired after singing that long. I know I do. So anyway, the reason I'm here now and the reason I went out and stuck that in there is because, just like the earlier part of this video, I was talking about kind of going with the flow, and a lot of times we can think that things are just perfect and they just go perfectly as scheduled, and and then you awaken, once you awaken, everything's all perfect. But for me, it's like the last 2 days have not gone at all like I planned. And years ago I might have thought things going wrong, right? Just the perspective of it years ago, say take 3 years ago, I would have been ultra aggravated at the fact that everything was going on wrong. 6 years ago, I would have thought probably it was somebody stopping me, right? Another human, though, the GOV human type person, right? Interfering or something. But then if you go like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago, it might be like a spiritual battle or something. And that's not putting anybody down for anything at all, but right now, realizing that it's like you can like navigate your life through the open doors and the path of least resistance, and trusting that the easiest path through, let's say the easiest. It's not always easy, that's for sure. But it's easy when you realize that things aren't happening for no reason. I think what makes things hard is when you feel like things are kind of coming out from nowhere and it's all coincidental, or, it's just accidental. But it's like these last few days, a perfect example to get on here because, this video was supposed to get done yesterday, but yeah, so I didn't get the video done. So then, today I'm thinking, well, I'll just go and record the video real quick. So that's what you saw at the beginning, but my phone overheated, right? And the video just stopped, and I didn't know where it stopped. And I thought, well, I was about to wrap it up anyway. I'll just post it like that. It's fine. Then I listened to it, and the sound is all jacked up. I can barely hear it, and I'm like, oh, I can't just. And then I thought I'll just bring it into my software and clean up the sound. But then, once I did all that, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, like, this video is nothing like I intended it to be to begin with. But even that clip that I just put in there of the concert with Michael Bolton, just me going and looking that up to put it in here was such. It just took me right back to all of the emotions of that concert. Ah, man, it's like, I just have no words for it, to be honest with you. It was just the first time that I really felt that intense of energy in a group that seemed to be so unified in that moment of just being so present, so many people so present with just, I don't know. It was just amazing. I don't really know what else to say. It was very impactful and it was definitely a pivotal moment in my life. And then looking at all of this unfolding with trying to create this video today, and things seem to be going wrong, or, you can label it that, but things are going exactly how they were supposed to go. And this video is turning out exactly like it was supposed to be. And I think a lot of times we can get caught up in what we think looks right, and instead it's it's whatever universe wants. And part of just awakening is realizing like, I'm not being attacked. Things aren't going wrong because some outside interference. Just the paranoia in general goes away, and you just trust that your path is being cleared in a way that you're in the zone. You know what I mean? And it's like you can be present more, and you can just trust that the future, you don't know what it's going to look like, and you don't even care what it looks like. You sort of like just let all those expectations go, and you're okay. Like, hey, it might, maybe it's not going to work out anything I planned, or maybe it's going to work out better. And it's kind of just like releasing it, that you're okay with everything, but trusting that you're going to have that optimal path. That's kind of where I kind of like try to resonate with. At least I'm on my optimal path right now, and I'm recognizing these lessons coming through. Just like this, this video was supposed to be done yesterday. Here it is today, and it's divine timing. And then, we never know. I release the expectations. I know it'll go out. It'll help at least one person. And it really doesn't matter beyond that, because I'll even be able to look back on this and documenting just this magical, adventurous time as a child. So there's nothing wasted, Somebody might stumble on this in 5 years for all I know. So it all works out. So getting back to the magical signs, synchronicities that we see, and sort of coming to a conclusion instead of a connection. I like to, a lot of the people that interact in this way can have a lot of fun, because you can find these streams of synchronicities, one that leads to another. But you'll lose that if you sort of draw your conclusion about it. And it's really amazing how I've been in some of these streams, and I talk to other people, and sometimes our streams of synchronicities even connect in a magical way that's really beautiful. And it's like just recognizing that every single thing that happens, there's some kind of meaning or something that can be gleaned from it, and it's like, even before the first part of this video that was recorded this morning, and now it's at the afternoon now, I noticed I have a ganglion cyst on my right ring finger. Yeah, have you ever heard of that? Yeah, so I'm like, last few days I had been noticing that my hand was really sore whenever I like grabbed or pulled or touched it a certain way, and it kind of felt like my whole hand was sore from maybe, I don't know, mowing the yard or something. Your hand gets sore. But then I noticed that it was just this one finger has this lump in it, so I was like looking into that, what that's all about. But even with that, I'm like looking for this connection. I can draw a conclusion like this means blah, 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 or I can start looking for a connection of what this means, And so my first thing was sort of a left brain analytical part. I started thinking of some of the vitamins and supplements I've been taking. Have I started taking something new? Anything like that, And then sort of like any kind of spiritual meaning that I might get out of this, the pain it causes to grip too tightly or to hold something too heavy. And, it's kind of like a message of, oh, who's hearing 38 Special? Hold on loosely, right? But don't let go. You guys know that song? So it's like, what does it connect to? And that's not, I won't settle with that and say that's for sure it, but I just take that and put it on the shelf and see if it connects with anything. See what else comes about with this. This might lead me to something else, some other supplement I should be taking, but I wouldn't have found it had I not researched this. So if anybody has any info on that, you can put it down in the comments below. Maybe it was supposed to happen, so a connection will be made that way. You just never know, and it's like, once you realize that there is some kind of purpose behind things, and it's usually something deeper than whatever you have on your mind. Like in my doodle drawing, I had all sorts of little ideas of why I was drawing what I was drawing, and then something greater came out of it. And even with, something really cool that came out in just the last few days, a realization in meditation that to encourage you guys is that, okay, so I've often talked about how I had things in my artwork that came about, but I didn't really know, and that I don't think everything we see on television is predictive programming. So, like when you see something on The Simpsons, and you know it seems to reflect something that happens in the future. I think sometimes it happens accidentally, just like when I was doing my artwork. I think sometimes, movies or any kind of art, people can tap in and they can get information, and it's not necessarily nefarious, but something that came to my mind in meditation the other day, which ties back into the law of one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the law of one, but there's a section in there that talks about how you can play things out in your mind, imagine things in your mind, honestly, instead of acting on them. And that would be ways to sort of play out and learn from situations without actually having to suffer the consequences from them. A good example I like to use is like punching your boss, right? You get so angry and you're just like, I could just punch him in the face, right? Well, of course you can't punch him in the face, but you can imagine punching him in the face. And, sometimes we do this, but we stop there and we don't go through the whole process of if you actually punched him in the face, the consequences of getting fired, taken away in handcuffs, going to jail, having an assault charge on your record, this sort of thing, right? Like really thinking it through. And you can just kind of dissolve that timeline, if you will. If you want to think of it like, paths you could have took, so you can think of it in your mind and dissolve that. And it's like done, without you having to actually do it. So what came to me in meditation that ties in with that is that a lot of the things that have been played out as being sort of these really crazy events, like, I don't know, asteroid hitting the earth, super volcanoes going, I don't know, whatever, just pick whatever disaster you want or horrible thing that those of us that are aware knows have probably been put out to sort of raise fear. Or like I said, it could just be like people just all tapped in and, they all got the asteroid movie at once. Could be like that. So in either case, you just never know. But what it does do is what that came to me in meditation is when we play out those horrific things, it allows us to not have to do that timeline in a way. Now, it doesn't always work. We can look at, what happened in Ohio in that movie, and, that was awfully suspicious, But many times, a lot of the things that play out on a silver screen actually don't even come true. It's almost like we dissolve that possibility away. We've done that. We don't need to do it again, whether it's real or not, because at the end of the day, it's all consciousness, right? So that's all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Lots of love, light, and unity. Oh, I did want to mention that, of course, I do one-on-one sessions, not only BQH sessions, but perspective chat sessions. Now, these can actually be used for anything, and you can find out more information on uotf.net under the contact page right there. But if you just need one-on-one, like someone in maybe you have a group and you're wanting to add a person, maybe you got like a think tank, maybe you need some artwork done, some tech support or some help with hooking stuff up, troubleshooting stuff, any sort of thing. Anything that I'm good at, you can borrow me for that. Just go to the contact page for more information on that. And of course, doing the Beyond Quantum Healing sessions. So I'm going to end this with that. Lots of love, light, and unity. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Mm-hmm.